John Peace was walking along the shore of St. John's Bay on the island of Stronsay, Scotland in 1808. But that day, he did not yet know what he discovered on the shore. John noticed a large, unusual object on the beach, which he first thought was a stranded boat. As he approached it, however, he realized that it was a huge carcass that had been thrown by the tide. John was immediately struck by the strange appearance of the creature, which he described as being about 55 feet long, with a thick mane of long stiff hair growing from the beast's shoulders to its tail, and with 3 pairs of either paws or flippers. Peace realized that this creature was something he had never seen before, and he quickly figured out it would be of great interest to others. He alerted his neighbors, and word of the discovery quickly spread throughout the region. Unfortunately, at the time, there was no way to photograph the creature yet, but a schoolteacher named George Sherar made a sketch of the beast, and 4 witnesses swore in the presence of the town judge that this drawing was true. Sherar's drawing was later published in various newspapers and magazines, which helped spread the fame of the Stronsay beast beyond the local region. Thus came the story of the most famous and most mysterious sea monster in history, the Stronsay beast. But it was far from the only one. We will now tell you what remains were found by John Peace, why fishermen sometimes catch creatures that shouldn't exist, and what kind of creature was captured in the video. The Orcadian newspaper described the remains of the Stronsay beast as, its flesh was described as being like coarse, ill-colored beef, entirely covered with fat and tallow and without the least resemblance or affinity to fish. The skin, which was gray-colored and had an elastic texture, was said to be about 2 inches thick in parts. Details of the incredible find soon reached the esteemed ears of the Natural History Society in Edinburgh. But when scientists arrived at the site where the creature's carcass used to lie, almost all the remains had already rotted away. What remained was bones. The esteemed surgeon, Sir Everard Home, brought the skull and neck bones of the beast with him to London, and upon close examination of the vertebrae, Sir Everard concluded that they were the remains of a giant shark. But how could people have seen a creature so much like the plesiosaur in the remains of a shark? According to scientists, the answer lies in the physiology of the giant shark, and in particular in the way it decomposes after death. Part of the shark's jaw, with only minor fragments of flesh together, withers away, recovering what looks like the remains of a neck and a shallow skull. Then, as only the upper half of the animal's caudal fin makes the spine, the lower half rots away and forms an exhaustive snake-like tail. When the dorsal fin begins to decay, the remaining fins may have the appearance of a hair-like mane. The 6 legs of the monster can simply be explained by the remains of the fins. But do not be too upset. This theory has many contradictions. To begin with, the longest recorded great shark measures only 40 feet, which is 15 feet less than the remains of the Stronsay beast. With a description of 55 feet from tip to tail, the shark that has decomposed to portray the Stronsay beast must have been a monster in its own right. Yes, and I think you've already guessed what I'm about to say. After all, this creature was found in Scotland, where the legend of the Loch Ness Monster originated. Although the second is 100% myth, because all pictures of it were faked, and the theory itself that such a giant creature can live in a small Scottish lake unnoticed for human eyes is very questionable. But the myth had to be based on something. On the fossils of pliosaurs, for example, which had been found many times in Scotland. But could one of these prehistoric lizards have survived until the early 19th century and been washed ashore? The chance is extremely small as catching a latimeria, which went extinct about 66 million years ago, or a largemouth shark. Oops, that's exactly what happened in 1938 off the coast of South Africa. A fisherman caught a creature that was thought to be long since extinct. Since then, coelacanths have been found in other places around the world. And in 1976, in Kahuku, Hawaii, people first discovered a largemouth shark when it became entangled in a sea anchor of a US Navy ship. This species was also previously thought to be extinct, but it turned out that this shark still lives in the ocean. Unlike the latimeria, is huge. The specimen caught was 14.7 feet long and weighed 1,650 pounds. So we do not know how many more undiscovered creatures may be lurking in the ocean's depths, and how many inhabited it as recently as 200 years ago will forever remain a mystery to us. But there are some incredible creatures caught by fishermen in the 19th century, and these creatures were indeed frightening. In 1821, one Samuel Bear Eads, captain of a British merchant ship, met some Dutch merchants in the port of Fiji with several Dutch merchants who offered him to buy a striking curiosity, a miracle of nature, a recently caught in Japanese waters and mummified mermaid. And the captain knew at once that he could make big money by showing proof of this legend in London and New York. However, the merchants asked 5,000 Spanish piastres, or 1,200 pounds sterling for the mummy. Eads decided to sell his ship and buy the mermaid and ship it to England. Upon arrival, the captain began to exhibit the curiosity to anyone who was willing to pay. But soon, many onlookers began to doubt that the creature was real, and the captain, wishing to verify the truthfulness of the creature, decided to conduct an examination. He was convinced the creature was real, but unfortunately for him, the results were disappointing. It was a clever fake. The skull and torso belonged to an adult female orangutan. The jaws and teeth were of a large baboon, and the tail was most likely from a salmon. The upper part of the monkey's spine was skillfully fused with the spine of the fish. Unfortunately, not all of the creatures people find are real. Many of them may be fake, although crafted in a very believable way, so it was easy for the captain to believe in the veracity of this creature. Even now on YouTube and TikTok, you can find many videos that show mermaids or similar humanoid sea creatures, and many people believe in the veracity of these videos. People want to believe in the fairy tale, but unlike the remnants of the monsters that we will talk about in this video, mermaids most likely do not exist, although these videos are very eager to prove us wrong. Quite recently, there was a popular video on TikTok where a man finds skeletons of mermaids in the water. It certainly looks very interesting, but something tells me that these skeletons are not real. The Fiji mermaid looked more believable. Or like in this video, where fishermen are catching a creature in a net that is frightening them off using their hands. It's hard to say unequivocally, but its authenticity is hard to believe. Although there are videos made more skillfully, like this one, where two guys in a boat are floating on a lake and talk about spotting something underwater. Then they film a strange pale hand on camera. After a while, they come back to feed the creature a chicken. The video looks very frightening, but I doubt the creature in it was real. I might be wrong though. What do you think? Feel free to write in the comments. But unfortunately, fakes like the Fiji mermaid encountered at the time were very rare, and the remains of truly incredible creatures were often thrown ashore that were definitely not fakes. In late 1896, two boys strolling along the beach in Anastasia Island, Florida made a curious discovery. A giant pear-shaped lump of grayish mucus spread out on the sand, convex at one end and seemingly disfigured appendages at the other. The blob, which the press later dubbed the St. Augustine monster, was about 21 feet long, 7 feet wide, and weighed about 7 tons. And fortunately for us, photographs of these remains have survived to this day. The two boys reported their discovery to a local physician, an amateur naturalist named Dr. DeWitt Webb. Although he was an amateur naturalist, Webb had a theory. These were the remains of a giant octopus. And 14 years later, scientists did find a giant octopus, but in the Pacific Ocean, and it would be an order of magnitude smaller than this creature. The giant Pacific octopus is only up to 5 feet long, while the remains of the creature found in Florida were more than 4 times larger. There is still no consensus among experts as to the identity of the St. Augustine monster. Some scientists who studied the remains at the time thought it might have been the carcass of a large decomposing whale that had lost most of its soft tissue due to ocean exposure. However, others argued that the creature had some anatomical features inconsistent with those of a whale, such as tough, leathery skin and a lack of identifiable organs. In 2004, the Florida Museum of Natural History analyzed DNA from a small sample of tissue preserved from the St. Augustine monster. The results showed that the creature was likely a large mass of connective tissue from a baleen whale, although the exact species could not be determined. Despite DNA analysis, some researchers still argue that the monster of St. Augustine was not a whale, and we have given some evidence for this above. Thus, while there is some evidence that the creature may have been a decomposing whale, there is still no definitive answer to this question. But this incident can be considered the first time people have discovered an incomprehensible mass of the remains of a sea monster. In 2003, a large jelly-like blob washed ashore on a beach in Chile. The blob was about 40 feet long and had no visible organs or identifiable features. Here too, scientists were unable to determine what it was. Incidentally, in both cases, as in the St. Augustine monster remains, DNA testing showed similarities to sperm whale DNA, but scientists believe that this evidence is too little to reliably determine whose remains it was. It may simply turn out that the creature was feeding on whales or their remains. And there have been many such cases where such shapeless remains have been thrown ashore. But there were cases where the remains had not yet decomposed so badly, and people would see a horrible, unidentified monster on the shore, like this monster from Spain. The bizarre-looking body of an unidentified sea creature washed ashore in 2018, prompting wild speculation that a sea monster from the depths had been discovered. The decomposing remains of the animal were about 13 feet long and appeared on the sand of a beach in Villaricos in Andalusia, Spain, on August 15th. The appearance of a body part separate from the creature's torso added to the mystery. There was speculation that it could be the skeleton of a shark, as in the case of the Stronsay beast, but the creature had something similar to horns, which confused scientists and made it difficult to give a clear answer to the question, what kind of creature is this? However, the same question came when this photo was taken in 1965. The monster that got caught in the frame was named Hook Island Sea Monster, which was photographed by Robert Le Serec when he traveled to the islands of Whitsunday off the coast of Queensland, Australia with his wife. The photograph shows a long serpentine form protruding from the water, with something like a small head at one end. This creature is very similar to the remains that were washed ashore in Scotland and Spain. Perhaps there is an unknown deep sea snake lurking in the depths of the ocean, and such creatures do live in the ocean. Take for example the giant oarfish. It fits the description of the sea serpent mentioned in the Scandinavian legends, except it's smaller. The largest recorded specimen reached a length of 36 feet, and this creature very rarely swims to the surface. It is mostly a deep sea creature. Who knows how many unidentified creatures lurk in the depths of the sea? And some of the stories of such creatures are simply astounding. Who do you think is depicted in this photo? Leave your opinion in the comments. And if you liked the video, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. See you around.